light. I think it is an honest endeavor to try and stimulate children in their classrooms to help them achieve higher standards and improve, get higher IQ tests. But is the claim that changing the traditional gray and white colored classrooms to other colors to increase the attention and productivity of students really the answer? In this refutation, I will prove that changing the traditional color of a classroom will not increase the attention and productivity of students. First of all, white is a stimulating color. It is meant to keep the focus on the teacher rather than other things in the classroom. And when it is coupled with natural lighting, children are more attentive in class. Architect Randall Fielding said, rather than color in a classroom, natural light is perhaps the single most important element in the learning environment. I believe this to be an alternative to changing the color in all classrooms throughout the world. Research shows that in classrooms with efficient daylight, math scores improve by 20% and verbal scores by 22%. Randall, as well as writer Kevin Dinmore, also explained the effects of using other colors in a classroom, in particular reds and greens, since they are the dominating colors in the warm and cool color categories. They explain, reds can promote and influence aggression. Reds raise blood pressure and grabs attention over a teacher, whereas greens create a relaxing environment meant to calm the students. Now, I wouldn't want my kids to be overstimulated and high aggressive while I'm trying to teach them, nor would I want them to be too relaxed and fall asleep on their desks in the middle of a lecture. I think that's already a problem, today. Having the opportunity to help teach an elementary class, I noticed that kids needed to be entertained. They have a short attention span, and they often, try to find something to grab their attention, and color on the wall would definitely grab their attention elsewhere. Government money that would be used to paint these classrooms could be better spent on materials that are particular to the class to help them produce higher IQ tests, and they could also hire better educators for those same children. As a child dealing with attention deficit disorder, I was often a victim of wandering off in class, and I could easily have my attention grabbed by something so insignificant. But in particular, I remember a classroom where the walls were painted lime green and there were splashes of macaroni orange on the walls. While I was sitting there, I kind of daydreamed about Nickelodeon. Those colors were perfect for Nickelodeon. And I was often worry about the ceiling tiles opening up and I'd be slimed in the middle of class for getting an answer wrong. For me, that color was distraction. Now, we all know the environment in our classrooms does influence our productivity. Like the lighting issues mentioned earlier, there are ways to influence children's learning in a classroom environment. For instance, school culture. Lauren Elizabeth Albert, author of Realistic Contributions for Improving the Physical School Environment, wrote that an experiment that she produced involving 8 Title I middle schools were surveyed about school culture being a key attribute to students' testing abilities. During the survey, grounds were to be kept clean and school spirit was to be encouraged and influenced. By the end of the experiment, teachers were polled on the progression of their students, and 90% of teachers admitted that test scores had increased purely by influencing school culture. At Cal Poly, I've noticed that the grounds are pretty well kept, and students are very spirited about their school and even show pride about being a Cal Poly Bronco. This attitude alone can increase productivity, and when you have pride in something, you often want to either take care of it or do something about it. I'd like to conclude with a short story. In the middle of the 20th century, hundreds, if not thousands of schools, hospitals, and prisons were painted light green, thought to induce calm and relaxing characteristics. With the results with this perfectly good color family, it was tainted as an institutional kiss of death by the 1980s and 1990s. In short, why not just keep the color the way it is? If you feel the need for color, why not add artwork to of the students to the walls? The self-esteem and encouragement building of seeing their artwork on the wall would be more motivating and more effective to the child's development than painting the wall green. This is why I believe that changing the traditional color will not increase the attention and productivity of students.
All right, I think you've got a reasonable explanation of your position on the colors. You've got a clear counterclaim that you're presenting. I think that you challenge the idea and show that white works pretty well and that the natural light is, in fact, the thing that is most beneficial in these circumstances. I think one of the things that you want to do is extend the notion that the white actually benefits that natural light. That would make that argument a little bit stronger. That's pretty reasonable. One of the things that I'm not getting is much contrast to what the advocates said on their point. What kind of evidence did they provide? You provided some good evidence on this particular point. What sort of evidence did they provide to make their position? How do I contrast what you've got here with what the advocate said? And I think that you need to be pressing them a little bit more on the development of their argument as well as presenting your counterclaim. But I think the counterclaim is very nicely developed. You use good personal experience as a way to introduce concepts and to get us to be able to relate to them. And I think most people would probably be able to identify with that, idea of having ADD, being distracted, worrying about, you just described the colors as looking like macaroni yellow, and I started thinking about food, so that's got nothing to do with worrying about whether or not I'm going to get slimed, but, there's just something else that you're thinking about in that particular situation. I also like the idea of the alternate causality, that there, in fact, that it might be better for us to spend our time and energy on the culture, and that gets us better outcomes. The criticism of the light green coloring is a generic claim that's made at the end, and I understand that in essence the argument is always a continuing one. If you have everything uniform all the time, then that is potentially a problem, so we could just be running into the same problem 10 years from now with whatever color we happen to select as being the change from what we've got now. I can see that. I thought you had an excellent summary of your position. Like I said, I think you just needed to challenge the advocate's evidence and grounds a little bit more, but presenting yours was very solid. Thank you.